general anti-avoidance rule. General anti-avoidance rule. So before going to this general anti-avoidance rule, again you need to have a background regarding certain tax treaties. You need to have an idea regarding certain tax treaties. I'll just give you a glance before going to GAAR. Try to understand that. Again, this is also very important. The tax treaties, the three important tax treaties, see, only these three treaties are very important for you from your examination point of view. That is Mauritius, Singapore and Cyprus. Mauritius, Singapore and Cyprus. Just I am making a comparison. Already you have an idea, but just since GAAR, you need to be very clear with that. Mauritius, Singapore and Cyprus. Mauritius, Singapore and Cyprus. Now what is the specialty of these three countries? All are tax havens. All are tax havens. Now what do you mean by tax haven? A place where either the people in that country, they will be either paying less tax or nil, tax will be less. So it's basically a business friendly or tax friendly nation, in that the nation will not impose tax on its citizen or residents. Okay. Now what happened after economic reforms is that India have signed lot of tax treaties with many of the countries, including these tax haven. Now what was the specialty of these tax treaty is that the treaty was called as double taxation avoidance agreement. The treaty is called as double taxation avoidance agreement. Double taxation. So India Singapore double taxation avoidance agreement, or India Mauritius double taxation avoidance agreement, or India Cyprus. Try to understand another term, we call it as tax treaty. So when you hear the word tax treaty, it is nothing but double taxation avoidance agreement. Double taxation avoidance agreement. Now what is the specialty of this double taxation avoidance agreement? It is an agreement. It's an agreement between two countries in which they says that they will not impose double taxation. They will not impose double taxation. Means if any particular country impose a tax, the other country will not impose a tax. So that's the specialty. So India Mauritius double taxation avoidance agreement. If Mauritius is imposing tax, then India will not impose tax on the same entity. Now I will give you an example in relation to this, regarding this double taxation avoidance agreement. It is this tax which we are talking is mainly in relation to capital gains tax. This tax which we are talking is in relation to what tax? Capital gains tax. Capital gains tax. So try to understand that what is capital gains tax? It's a tax imposed on capital gain. Whenever there is gain in the capital, a tax will be imposed. It can be any capital. Now here we will study in this context, try to imagine the case of a share market or a stock market. The stock market, a Mauritius investor, any of the countries, a Mauritius investor is buying the share of an Indian company. A Mauritius investor is buying the share of an Indian company for 1000 rupees, imagine. After 2 months or after 1 month, this share of that company have increased from 1000 to 1050. Now he purchased the share for 1000, now the share of the company is 1050. What is the capital gain here? 50 rupees. From 1000, the share price have increased to 1050, the capital gain is 50 rupees. Now he has not purchased one share, he has purchased 1000 shares. Now the capital gain is 50 into 1000, so that much Okay, so in that way, if you see, there are a lot of people who are coming investing here. So capital gain is there. Now try to understand what is the specialty of this capital gains tax in relation to double taxation avoidance treaty which we signed between, it is common between all the three countries. If I am saying for Mauritius, it is same for Singapore also, it is same for Cyprus also. Okay. Now what happened here? So the treaty says that this term is very important. What is called as home country, or another name resident country. Resident country. But here the resident country means the resident country of an investor. The resident country of an investor. Resident country of an investor, and the source country. Source country. Resident country and source. Source country is the country at where the source of income. Source of income. Where the source. So here, when a Mauritius investor is investing in India, the resident country is Mauritius. Source country is India. Now as per this treaty, it says that under the India-Mauritius double taxation avoidance agreement, it says that capital gains tax can be imposed only in the resident country. So what will happen to Indian government? Tax authorities, we can't impose if the investment is coming from Mauritius. If the investment is coming from Mauritius, the Indian tax authorities can't impose capital gains tax. That's the treaty says that, because the treaty says that the tax can be imposed on resident only at the residence level, not at the source level. Now and actually what has happened in relation to Mauritius? Mauritius as a country never imposed capital gains tax. See the fun? Indian tax authorities can't impose tax from Mauritius. Any investor who was investing from Mauritius, any capital gains tax, because the treaty says that the source country can't impose tax. Now, whether the Mauritius is imposing tax on them, resident country is imposing tax on them. No. Why? They don't have any capital gains tax. Now what will happen to this investor? He needed to pay tax in India also. He needed to pay tax in Mauritius also. So what it said, double taxation have become double non-taxation. No need to pay tax. So many of the investors have seen this as an opportunity. They started setting up shell companies. This word is very important. Shell companies is in news. Many shell companies were set up in Mauritius. For what purpose? This term is very important. It's related with GAAR. See why I am explaining it this. Unless and until you are not clear with this tax treaty, you will not understand GAAR. I am going to use a word. So why these companies were set up? To enjoy tax benefit. This word is very important. Tax benefit. Tax benefit. So to get this tax benefit, many of the companies, the US companies, European companies all started setting up a shell company, or they started setting up any form of residential type of company there in Mauritius, and they try to route their investment to India through Mauritius. Now what is the purpose of setting up a company in Mauritius? To get the benefit of this tax benefit. And this continued for a quite long time. India realized the mistake. So in the last 2 or 3 years, global wise, it's not only in India, global wise, there is a global movement between the countries, especially initiated by OECD and G20, that we need to catch hold of these tax avoidance strategies. These are what? These are tax avoidance strategy. Is it a tax avoidance strategy? Yes, it's a tax avoidance strategy. So in order to get to the, in order to tax these strategies, OECD have come with several initiatives. Have come up with several initiatives. As part of these initiatives, OECD also said that okay, all the member countries, including the G20, since India is a G20 member, that you can revise your existing tax treaties as part of this initiative. So actually what India is losing taxes, India as a country is losing taxes, mainly capital gains tax. Now what India have done in 2016 is, to the major 3 countries from where foreign investment is coming to India, we amended these tax treaties. What is that? What we have done? We have amended the tax treaties in May 2016. We amended tax treaties with Mauritius. Later on, in the end of the year, we amended the tax treaties with Cyprus and then with Singapore. There are other countries also we have amended the treaty, but that is not important for you. UPSC will not ask questions, that's my guarantee, don't worry. These 3 are very important. Now, what is the amendment? What amendment government have done? That's very important. What Indian government have done in relation to the tax treaties? The most important amendment what it has done is, from this residence-based taxation, we have changed to source-based taxation. This is the major amendment we have done in relation to all these treaties. So earlier there were, what type of taxation were there? It was residence-based taxation. In the amendment we have made where source-based taxation. This is the amendment we have brought to these treaties. The amendment, the changes we have brought to these treaties are in relation, we made it source-based taxation. Source-based taxation. Now what is this source-based taxation? Now the source country can impose tax. The source country can impose tax. It means that now Indian government or Indian tax authorities can impose tax on these investment. So that's a key change. Now since we are going to, while doing so, this is the key thing, while doing so, we have given some guarantee to these investors. One is what is called as grandfathering clause. See, they will ask you what is this grandfathering clause is all about. So a smooth transition in all these treaties, what we have ensured is, we ensured a smooth transition. And while shifting from resident based to source based taxation, we said that okay, we are going to give you a protection under grandfather clause. We'll explain what is this grandfather clause. Before explaining grandfather clause, try to understand that this source based taxation will be implemented from 1st April 2017. So this started coming into existence. This started coming because already 1st April 2017 have passed. Now what is this grandfather clause? Grandfather clause, it's a clause in many of the treaties where it says that the earlier treaties, it will be as it is. Only when the amended thing will be happening only from the date at which it starts. So by providing grandfathering clause, in simple term, what has happened to these treaties is that those people, those investors from these tax haven who have invested already in India, that is before April 1st 2017, for them they can continue the earlier provisions, earlier benefits they will get. So what grandfathering clauses will give them is, anyone who have invested in India before 1st April 2017, they will enjoy the earlier treaty benefits. It means that they only have to pay residence based taxation. Residence based taxation means no tax, because at their residence there is no tax. So grandfathering clause, what it provides is that okay, for the earlier people who have invested in India, that is before 1st April 2017, you still enjoy the earlier treaty benefits. Only those people who are going to invest into India from 1st April 2017, for them it is source based taxation. So we have provided grandfathering clause. Now try to understand, when you compare, grandfathering clause have been given to all the three countries. That's very important. Grandfathering clause have been given to Mauritius, Singapore and Cyprus. But another favor we have given to Mauritius and Singapore. What is called as, it's a very important, it's again related with GAAR, what is called as limitation of benefit. It said, okay, so one thing, so you're clear with this source based taxation, you're clear with source based, so we have changed to source based taxation. We have changed to source based taxation. We have given them grandfather clause provision, grandfathering clause, and we also said that this capital gains tax, try to understand that in India, in stock exchanges, we don't have long-term capital gains tax. Long-term capital gains tax in India is zero, both for foreign investors and for domestic investors. So when we are talking about capital gains tax in relation to share, we are talking about short-term capital gains tax. Be very clear with it. Short-term means up to 1 year, So if any investment beyond 1 year, it have become long-term capital gain, and long-term capital gain tax in shares or in stock market is zero. So we are talking in relation to short-term capital gains tax. Now regarding this short-term capital gains tax presently, the short-term capital gains tax presently is 15%. Short-term capital gains tax presently is 15%. But this treaty says that, okay, for the next 2 years, the short-term capital gains tax will be 7.5. That is half of it, half of the existing capital gains tax. So this is another treaty provisions given to another treaty benefits. It's a treaty again. See, even though earlier there was no short-term capital gains tax. Why? It was residence based. But I told you this amendment, source based taxation have started from 1st April 2017. Source based taxation started from 1st April 2017. So once we shifted to source based taxation, in order to make the investors happy, Indian government have guaranteed one more thing, that for you, from investors from these countries, the short term capital gain tax will be half of it, half of the prevailing tax. So prevailing tax is 15%, half is 7.5. So we have given for the next 2 years, that is from 1st April, this is another provision given, 1st April 2017. What is the specialty of 1st April 2017? This is the date on which this treaty have been amended and come into existence. But from 1st April 2017 to next, that is up to March 31st 2019, that is 2 years. That the government will give them half of, they need to pay only half of it. But to get this benefit, again this benefit is given by the Indian government. What is this benefit, tax benefit, what we are giving them? We are telling them instead of 15% tax, you pay only 7 point, but a condition is there. A condition is there. What is that condition? There is a condition what is called as limitation of benefit. This will be available based on a provision what is called as limitation of benefit clause. This term is also again important to GAAR. I have to relate it, okay. Limitation of benefit means it says that, so is what is the benefit here? It's a tax benefit. What is the tax benefit here? Half of the tax, capital gains tax. But it says that there is a limitation. It means that every Mauritius investor or Singapore investor will not get this benefit. There is a limitation. Limitation is, we will check that we need to ensure that the investor is a genuine investor. The investor is a genuine investor, or we need approval that it is not a shell company. For shell companies, we will not give you this benefit. For shell company, then you have to pay the full 15% tax. So we will not give you benefit. If you are a genuine investor, we will give you. So it says that, what it says that, okay, we need to know the expenses of your company. How much is your annual expenses? Based on your annual expenses, we will get to know that whether you are a shell company or not. Whether you are a shell company or not. Now, if your expense is very low, it is very clear that it is a shell company. The purpose of you going to Mauritius or Singapore is nothing to get tax benefit. So we are not going to give you this limitation of benefit. We will impose you have to pay full tax. Okay, so limitation of benefit is a anti-tax avoidance strategy. Yes or no? Limitation of benefit is what? It is a particular type of so this clause will be benefiting only those investors, genuine investors, not for shell companies. So limitation of benefit we have to discuss in relation to GAAR. Now try to understand that. So what is limitation of benefit? It is a tax benefit given with a limitation. What is that limitation? And expenses. And in expenses will be taken into consideration. The government have set an expenses. If it feels that the company expense is less than that limit, it will have to pay full tax. So these two things be very clear. Now regarding these three countries, again, see, along with GAAR, double taxation avoidance agreement or tax treaty, is very, very important for your coming prelims. So be very clear in relation to all these treaties. You will not get confused. Okay, try to understand with that. With all these treaties, now it is source-based taxation. With all the treaty we have amended, for all these tax events we have amended. Now it is source-based taxation. It means that Indian authorities will tax from 1st April 2017. All the three countries were given grandfathering clause. Grandfathering clause were given to all the three countries. But regarding the limitation of benefit, it was given only to Mauritius and Singapore, not to Cyprus. This is a very important point. Limitation of benefit clause is provided only to Mauritius and Singapore, not to Cyprus. So for Cyprus from 1st April 2017 onwards, it have to pay the full. It has become short term. Now any investment coming from Cyprus after 1st April 2017, they have to pay full short term capital gains tax. These points be very clear with that. Okay, and also be very clear, there is a link between Mauritius and Singapore in our treaty itself. See, in the Singapore treaty, it said that, okay, whatever changes Indian government make in relation to Mauritius will happen automatically to Singapore also. So it's already in the India-Singapore treaty, it is said that whatever changes will there in Mauritius will happen to Singapore also, but not there in relation to Cyprus. So since in May 2016, we have given limitation of benefit clause to Mauritius, with Singapore we have signed later. It also have to be given that limitation of benefit. That's the reason why. So whatever we give to Mauritius will be there for Singapore also. But Cyprus, try to understand, with Cyprus we were not having a good relation. And Cyprus is not a major inflow of country unlike Mauritius and Singapore. Okay, Cyprus, we are even blacklisted Cyprus investment because they were not following our request. Okay, so now, but it was removed. Now everything is normal, but we didn't give Cyprus limitation of benefit clause. So this background, try to understand that. So there are lot of tax treaties India have signed, especially the double taxation avoidance agreement. Now try to understand that what is the specialty of this tax treaty is that the investment coming from these countries investor will used to get lot of tax benefits. Okay, so the present the government and the world over, there is a movement against tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax avoidance and tax evasion. Try to understand that tax avoidance means an entity or an individual is avoiding taxes by using any existing mechanism. Now here it is tax avoidance, yes or no? It is tax avoidance because by investing from Mauritius, they need not to pay any tax because the treaty says that if an investor from Mauritius, then it is residence based taxation, but in residence there is no tax. But there is tax evasion is there, that's different. Tax evasion means you are not showing to the tax authorities you are having an income and you are evading it. So tax avoidance and tax evasion are entirely different. Now here, now come to our major topic. We are coming, so all the thing which we have studied in relation to tax treaty, tax benefit, tax avoidance, limitation of benefit, this background you need to be very clear in relation to understand general anti-avoidance rule, general anti-avoidance rule. So we will go to understand general anti-avoidance rule. It's very simple. What is called as GAAR, general anti-avoidance rule. Try to understand that it is a rule. It is a rule on anti-avoidance. What is this anti-avoidance? It is anti-tax avoidance. So it is a rule. It is a rule. What type of rule? It is a general rule. It is a general rule. It is a general rule for what? Against anti, so against means anti-tax avoidance. So now you will have an idea, okay, this rule is set by the government. This rule is set by the government for what? For what purpose? For tax avoidance purposes. To avoid tax avoidance purposes. Now try to understand that it is this rule is applied for foreign investors. This rule is applicable to foreign investors. To those foreign investors who try to avoid tax. How they avoid tax? By using several tax treaty benefits. So one treaty benefits, you know it. Now what this rule have given? This rule have empowered domestic, that is Indian tax authorities. This rule have empowered or given them power to Indian tax authorities to look into all the transactions or arrangements made by this foreign investor. So this rule have given power to Indian tax authorities to look into all the transactions, that's why general, and arrangements made by the foreign investor, and what they look into, they will see that whether this transaction, whether this arrangement have been made to avoid, if this arrangement or transaction have been made mainly to get tax benefits, then what these tax authorities will do? They will say that you will not get this tax benefit and you have to pay tax for it. So general anti-avoidance rule have given the power for domestic tax authorities to check whether a transaction or an arrangement is a genuine one or not. If it find that this transaction is not genuine, this transaction is made solely to get tax benefits, the authority will say that no, we will not give you the tax benefit, you have to pay the full tax. So try to understand that GAAR is not only implemented by India, almost all the countries, especially the developed countries, have started implementing it. We also started try to implement GAAR, try to understand that it has an history also. Way back when Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister. During the UPA 2 government time, okay, the government tried to introduce in the budget 2012-13 time, but during that time, the foreign investors suddenly shook the market. There was larger outflow. Then the government had to withdraw from the decision, and it said that, okay, we are not going to impose this rule for another 2 years. By that 2 year, UPA government have gone and the new NDA government have come to power. So when the after this present government came to power, Arun Jaitley, our finance minister, said that, okay, we are not going to implement in 2015, we are going to implement in 2017, April 2017. So already 2 years were given. Okay, so but now again try to understand that this tax treaty amendment and GAAR have come to existence together. So GAAR is now in force from 1st April 2017. This GAAR is now in force from 1st April 2017. So GAAR is several measures worldwide. We have made several measures, including we are introducing this concept. Again, try to understand a concept what is called as base erosion and profit shifting. It's all part of it. Base erosion and profit, it's linked. Okay, what is this base erosion? Who is eroding the base? Actually, the base is tax base. The tax base of a country is eroding. India government is eroding taxes. Why? We are not getting capital gains tax. And the tax, so the profit which the company is getting, they are shifting to some other country, to their own parent. So this is an exercise taken globally, this base, so it is against an anti-BEPS move by multinational companies. Okay, so OECD G20 is now following a global tax transparency regime in which all the tax avoidance strategy used by many of the companies will be curtailed, and they will impose proper tax on them, and the base tax base of every country, including the US, will benefit out of it. So if you need to very clear the concept what is called as general anti-avoidance rule. So like general anti-avoidance rule, there is another what is called as specific anti-avoidance rule. Same, one is general, so be very clear. So GAAR is a rule which empowers the tax authorities to look into the transaction or arrangement where it will look into the whether it is any commercial substance to these transactions. If it is not, it will impose tax. And it is not, it's a general rule. It is a general rule. It can look into any transaction. It can look into any transaction or any arrangement. So it is a wider power given to the domestic tax authorities to these transactions made by the foreign companies. Now like that, there is what is called as specific, like GAAR, we have SAR also. What is SAR? Specific anti-avoidance rule. GAAR and SAR. We know an example of SAR, specific anti-avoidance rule. What is that? Limitation of benefit is a SAR. Limitation of benefit is a SAR. Specific what is limitation of benefit? It is also an anti-avoidance rule. Limitation of benefit given to Mauritius. Limitation of benefit given to Mauritius and Singapore. What is the limitation of a benefit given to Mauritius and Singapore? It says that, okay, we are giving you a benefit of half tax. We are giving you a benefit of half tax. But you will benefit only if you are a genuine investor. So specific cases there. There is a specific rule in it. If you find that the transaction, so the company is a shell company, then that you have to pay the tax. So limitation of benefit so is applicable. So it says there is a specific, so every tax treaty will have their own anti-treaty provisions, means anti-tax treaty provisions. So limitation of benefit is one of it. But But in GAAR, so in SAR it is in this LOB it is only will look into one factor only. No other factor will be taken into account. And it is only for limitation of benefit clause only. But in GAAR it is wider, it is not specific. It can look into any aspect of the tax treaty or tax arrangement or the transaction done by a for multinational company or any arrangement made by a multinational company. Now regarding the finer details of GAAR, that's very important. The inner details. So you know GAAR, but what is the specialty of our GAAR? What is the finer details of our GAAR? One is very important is GAAR. First try to understand that it have come into existence from 1st April 2017. You can easily remember it. It is as on the same date of the tax treaty which have come into existence. And this GAAR is applicable to those company where the tax benefit, this GAAR is applicable only if any company, if any foreign investor who is having a tax benefit beyond this is a fact, but it's very important, 3 crore. This word is very, amount is very important. GAAR is applicable only, I am talking about Indian GAAR. The Indian government which, this GAAR, this general anti-avoidance rule is applicable only if the Indian tax authorities feel that the tax benefit a company got is above 3 crore. If it is so, if you are getting a benefit of 2 crore, GAAR is not applicable. 1 crore, GAAR is not applicable. So it's a very important point. Second is, if any court, Indian court, have look into these arrangements, the court have look into the arrangements, and the court said that okay, and if the court approval is there, this arrangement is legal, this arrangement is not for tax benefits, then the GAAR is not applicable. Okay, and see, in order to avoid the mismanagement or the deceit, actually the tax authorities have been given wider power. In order to ensure that the tax authorities use this provision in a fair manner, that there is a 2 approval process, double vetting process. In order to GAAR to be implemented, 2 level approval process is required. That's very important. 2 level approval process is required. 2 level approval process is required. For what? For what? For GAAR to apply on a company. First is, it require the approval. It require the approval of the commissioner, income tax commissioner, or the principal commissioner. First it require the approval from the principal commissioner or income tax commissioner. That's the first stage. Commissioner of it need at the first stage it require approval from principal commissioner or commissioner of income tax at the first stage. Second, after that it require approval from a panel. It require approval from a panel headed by a high court judge. Headed by a high court judge. So there is a 2-stage or 2-level approval processes there. So 2-stage approval processes there, which will ensure that the tax authorities will not misuse this wider power given to them. So there is a 2-stage approval process. At the first stage, it need to be approved by the principal commissioner or the commissioner of income tax. At the second stage, it need to be approved by a panel headed by a high court judge. So these are the 2 very, very important points regarding GAAR. That is, that GAAR will be applicable if the benefit is beyond or 3 crore and above. Second is that if the court approved arrangement will not apply. Court approved arrangement is not, GAAR is not applicable, and in order to ensure a fair exercise by the tax authorities, we have two-stage approval process, and then it is clearly said that okay, if the GAAR again will not play with this limitation of benefit clause if it is taken care of properly. So GAAR will not applicable to the limitation, if limitation of benefit clause is there and it is applying properly to avoid preventing tax avoidance, GAAR will not be applicable. But for you, from the examination point of view, this is a very important point. This 3 crore. What can happen? There can be a change in this value. The UPSC can change this value and try to understand that this 3 crore is a universal fact. 3 crore is a universal fact, means whenever a news have happened in relation to GAAR, this line was there, that it is applicable, and it is repeatedly said by the finance minister also. This is applicable, and regarding this date also, be very clear, and regarding this concept also, GAAR. So be very clear with this general anti-avoidance rule. What is the purpose? They will ask a simple question. What is the purpose of introducing general anti-avoidance rule? Or what is the purpose of the government have made several changes in relation to tax treaties and by introducing GAAR? What is the purpose? Term is to avoid, means the government want to curb tax avoidance and thereby want to strengthen our BEPS mechanism. What is that? Anti-BEPS mechanism, base erosion and profit shifting mechanism. And it is not only India is doing it. It is followed by almost all these. This initiative is taken up by a group of a organization of developed country, that is OECD, supported by G20, which is where both the major developed and developing countries are there. So it's an initiative of OECD and G20. What is being, India is following it. What is their initiative? To curb tax avoidance and tax evasion. Be very clear with all these concepts. If you are clear with all these concepts, if a question comes, most probably a question will come. It will be an easy question and you can easily answer it. Be very clear with this general anti-avoidance rule. Hopefully either in relation to tax treaty or in relation to GAAR, a question will come. If a question will come, this is your important point. If you revise it, you can easily answer it.